He's going to moderate our next session and an industry panel discussion on the current and future state of the labor force in Saskatchewan.
Great, thanks, Steve and Jane. Really appreciate Rebecca and her talk today as well. So, folks, like Gene and Steve said, we're gonna shift gears again. I'm going to bring on a panel that I have a lot of respect for. Besides, two of them are on my board, so I got to say all sorts of nice things about them. But first of all, I'm going to bring on Shannon Friesen. Shannon is the CEO of the Saskatoon Construction Association and co-CEO for all 5 Saskatchewan construction associations, and she plays a pivotal role in fostering, collaborating with and innovation within the sector. She's held a number of senior leadership positions in a variety of organizations, including the YWCA as their CEO, executive director for the Association of Fire Chiefs, and an executive director with Autism Services. And outside of some of her professional commitments, she stays really engaged in the community and serves on the board for the YMCA in Saskatoon and Saskatoon Housing Authority. Hi, Shannon.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. I'll bring on also Dion Malakoff. Dion is the Executive Director of Saskatchewan Building Trades Council. Dion holds a red seal in boiler making trade, along with many pressure tickets as a pressure welder with the Boilermakers. He's held a number of positions: assistant manager for the Boilermakers Local 555 for the last 5 years, and then superintendent for the world's largest large-scale carbon capture. Oh my goodness, I can't even speak anymore. Carbon capture project, Boundary Dam in Estevan. Dion loves to coach. He's got 2 super active boys that are involved in sports activities. So welcome, Dion. And finally, I've got Carolyn Bagnell. Carolyn is the executive director of the Mechanical Contractors Association of Saskatchewan, and she is also an experienced executive with a track record of leadership in the nonprofit sector. Does a lot of work on building partnerships and fostering collaboration to ensure the organizational success for her industry, and with a lot of for the advancement of mechanical contracting industry and trades. Carolyn is also been involved in a number of organizations outside of work, holds a bachelor's degree in history, diploma in applied computer sciences, and has earned the Certified Association Executive designation. So I've got a super bright group here today. And I'm just not pressure, Colin. Yeah, I'm creating pressure. And it's not just because 2 of you are on my board of directors, but but thank all of you for joining today. I think this is the right group for the right topic here, which is very much about talking about the labor force, some challenges that I'm going to ask you each to spend some time talking about, and then maybe moving into how we address some of those issues, and how is safety integrated and some of the risks associated with some of the challenges that we've got with respect to the construction force. And again, folks, we're going to try to make sure we've got a bit of time for questions. So as you have questions, please drop them in the chat, and a little bit later on, I'll see if we can maybe pull a couple of things in here and bounce them off of each of you. And so maybe first of all, if we can talk about, if you don't mind, I'll ask each of you to take a few minutes and kind of talk about the current state of the construction labor force in Saskatchewan from your perspective, both from the demand side, but also the availability of skilled workers and some of the challenges that you're seeing. And maybe Shannon, you're in my top right corner right now. I wonder if you wouldn't mind starting us off on this one.
I'm the fortunate one. I get to start first. So, yeah, I think we're at a very unique time in our history in the industry that coming out of COVID, we kind of had some interesting dynamics there, and we're kind of at at an all-time high in terms of growth in our community that we're living in right now. We have all kinds of projects coming down the pipe, so the demand on labor is quite extensive. So the needs for labor are not matching the labor that we have for a variety of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is just the growth in the sector. So, I mean, that's an excellent problem to have those kinds of projects coming down the pipe and economic growth coming in our community. So that's a good problem to have, but the labor is not matching. And we're going to get into it, but there's a variety of reasons. It's a large group of people retiring out in the next 10 years. It's coming out of COVID and people not returning to work. There's a lot of different challenges. So I think we need to be creative and innovative and try to solve some of those labor things. So I'll keep my comments to that and not get into the solutions until we start talking about that.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Carolyn, your experience with this and some of your broader thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with Shannon. It's some of it is a good problem, right? The province is growing. We're seeing construction taking off, which is fantastic. But, when I look at some of the numbers that I see, the federal government announcing how many homes they want built, for the mechanical trades, for example, the retrofits that need to happen in order to hit the greenhouse emission targets, I'm not sure how we're going to do that. It's a great time to go into the industry for sure, but it's a tight market out there. We've been saying this for years that we were going to have issues, and now it's coming true. We're seeing it now. So there's going to be some struggles, but again, I think I agree with Shannon. It's kind of some good struggles, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks, Carolyn. Dion, obviously you come from the labor side, this picture, but the building trades, you're sourcing, you're trying to grow labor, you represent labor as well. I wonder from what you're seeing from your perspective in terms of kind of the current state and what kind of pressures that's creating.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today. Again, I think I've been in the industry almost just over 25 years. I think I'm on my third boom here. And before I retire, I'll probably go through a couple more. I call it the leaky bucket. You pour people in the top and they come in the sides, the bottoms. I was a tradesperson at one time, and now here I am on the conference with you folks. So that took me off the tools, out of supervision, and someone had to replace me and the years of experience I had. So recruitment and retention are always on the go for labor. You don't grow a skilled tradesperson overnight. It takes time. So you have to plant that seed, and that's where the recruitment comes into the schools, into the there's 4 pillars that we like to look at, and the industry has changed since I got in. And the 4, you got women, Indigenous, new Canadians, and youth. And so you have to plant those seeds. And then once you plant those seeds, you need to water them and fertilize them, and then you need to grow them. And then hopefully after all that, you get into an apprenticeship and you pick a trade, and away you go. And with the industry right now, it's extremely busy. Like I said, I'm on my third boom, and it's extremely busy. Again, it's just the leaky bucket. You pour people in and they come out, and so they go into supervision. They get into the SCSA, for an example. I think one of your moderators said he was in the industry. So it's just an ongoing, nonstop retention and recruitment at this time. And then again, you draw in from other places in the country, and you're able to bring people in, and some of our people go out, and it is really a global economy, I guess we can say, from when I used to be in, where it was very, now it's global, and that's the way our economy works. And I think we've seen that over the pandemic, how global we are and how intertwined we are with each other around the globe. So I'll leave it at that. And sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you. I think you raise a really interesting point. I'm going to say during the last boom, we benefited from being able to draw a lot of people into the province to do work. And today, and since COVID, we've seen a number of economies around the world all trying to kickstart activity. We're seeing public investment, private investment being released, but it's kind of everywhere at once. And so now the people that you used to attract from other parts of Canada or around the world are, their home province, their home state is also trying to do the same thing. So oftentimes we're fighting for the same person and then having to grow from a third source, but it's not a fast source. And I think some of the things that we're seeing in terms of local availability versus what happens beyond our borders is something that I wouldn't mind, and Carolyn, if you wouldn't mind, because you've got a particular trade that has a very focused skill set, that's different than maybe somebody who's comes in as a general laborer at a workforce and then slowly finds their way into something that might interest them, whether it be carpentry work or some other element of construction. Yours is very, very specific. And so I wonder, could you talk a little bit about what you're finding from a competitive perspective when it comes to fighting for the same person?
Oh, it's tough. Because I think part of the problem too now is that employees are much more savvy than they were in the past. So if you're an employer, you've got employees that are coming in, I think you're finding now that potential employees are actually interviewing the employers now. So, they want to know, what benefits you have available. Am I going to be able to, advance my career? Is there going to be training opportunities? Those types of things are happening. And I think as employers, they're going to have to, respond to that. So it's challenging that way. And for our trades, because we are so specific, we're competing with everybody else as well, right? How do we make, somebody want to come into the plumbing trades, into the mechanical trades, be a refrigeration mechanic, when everybody else is going after those same people? It's definitely a challenge. So I think our employers are getting a little more savvy themselves as well. They're looking at what can I offer you so that you're going to come and work for me, because I don't think not everyone now is looking at that bottom line of, it's just about the pay. It's about all sorts of other things.
Great point. And Shannon, maybe I'll ask you if you could maybe talk on this element as well, because even in advertisements that I see for companies, they talk about pay, but they talk about a whole bunch of other things, life balance and safety's become probably one of the more frequent topics that I see in terms of what we're seeing in ads, whether it be billboards, radio, digital means. And is this a topic that's coming up, in terms of business strategies that companies are employing more broadly, or is this just something that, because I work in this part of the sector, that I just happen to see?
I absolutely think it's definitely an increasing trend, and I would say the term safety is becoming a much broader definition as well. So, safety in the physical terms, in terms of we don't want workplace accidents, we want to make sure people get home safe. There's also all aspects of safety, emotional safety, psychological safety, mental health issues. All of those things are really coming to light, and we're really shining the spotlight on some of those things in our industry. And to be honest, we haven't been good at that in the past, right? We don't talk about our problems, we don't talk about our issues. And Dion talked about the recruitment and the retention issues, and being able to retain these people that we recruit into our industry means we need to be creating a safe environment. And now we have so many different types of people coming to our industry. We need to make sure that once we get them there, we're providing a good experience for them. And I have some real life examples of my 17-year-old son at the time, given a try in the construction industry and had a pretty poor experience on the job site. So, the higher ups, the office people have the right training and skills, but it's not necessarily transferring down to the job site. And we have lots of work to do as an industry to make sure that whoever gets to that job site feels safe in all terms of the definition.
I think it's probably a good time if we have a couple of slides, I think that might help give us a picture and something that Dion has talked about, and I know all three of you are heavily involved with Bill Force, whether it be on their labor market information panel, which I'm also participate in that, but really find it interesting. Dion talked about specifically some of the demand differences, having addressed retirements, but also where we need to attract from. Dion, you talked about women, Indigenous people, newcomers. That's there's a different strategy than what we used to do, I think, in this industry in terms of recruitment. We just didn't walk down the street and say, hey, you worked on a farm. You're probably pretty good with a tool. This is, and it's not just buddies anymore. We're really trying to be much more deliberate. Could you talk about some of the things from the building trade side, and that I'm going to say in terms of strategies on trying to recruit from groups that maybe traditionally or historically haven't recruited from? There's a couple of really interesting areas that I think are worth, if you wouldn't mind sharing on.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned our 4 pillars, and we call it Build Together is the program that we're using, and and we've hired people to do exactly that, is to get into those communities, those underrepresented groups. And I can tell you from when I started in the industry, in I think it was 95, 96 to now, it's not even comparable on the inclusivity on the job sites, the equipment used, the fall arrest for women versus men, all the smaller gloves, all this stuff that when you had a woman on site, it was like, hey, yeah, whatever. Here's your coveralls that are 8 times too big. Here's your gloves that aren't even, so now you're taking your gloves off to try and do it. So now everything has come a long way, and that's how we're going to be able to continue. Now we have a long ways to go if you look at the numbers. So this is not just a one-time thing and you move on. We need these groups in our industry. It's the owners want to see this. We've been told time and time again that we're not seeing enough visible Indigenous women, new Canadians. They want to see this on their job sites. So now, how do you get them on the job sites? Well, you have to make them feel inclusive. You got to make sure that when they are there, safety is absolutely. And Colin, your organization has done a great job. I've been here a long time on having that advocacy and getting into the youth and these groups that say, and Carolyn mentioned on interviewing the employer. Well, they're more educated than we were. Way more educated, way more aware of their rights and responsibilities, and that's a good thing. And so as we keep going, we need to continue to do this, and the job is never done, ever. And I don't know if that answered the question, Colin.
Yeah, thank you. I think in each one of you, great, perfect. Each one of you, I've in preparing for this, looked at all of your and these are available on each of their websites, whether it be SAS Building Trades, the Provincial Construction Association, and Mechanical Association as well. Whether it be from the front page or through the whole documents, everyone's talking about this particular topic in terms of recruiting from groups that they may not have recruited from. This may not have been the hot topic 10 or 15 years ago, but the focus on hiring and the preparation that has to go in there. And Dion, you talked about it's not a just drop somebody in the room and give them a quick orientation, boom. It takes a long time to develop a really good skill. And this is a process of years, and rushing it can create so many challenges, and the story after story of somebody trying to rush through something and then having irreversible damage because of it. Perhaps could we talk about, just for a moment, because I'm gonna switch a little bit to a question on technology, but can we switch a moment on some of the risks? If there are a heightened risk today in terms of implication of safety, being able to complete projects on time safely. Like, is this a topic of worry that you're having either amongst your members or more broadly? Carolyn, you're
I'm nodding. Yeah,
so.
you're talking to me. So there's a lot of talk about, for example, bringing in foreign workers. And I've read a number of articles lately about it because I was talking to one of our members, and on paper, this particular person looked fantastic until he came for the actual interview. And at the interview, he didn't speak a word of English. His wife was translating. So that's a huge safety issue. And, like I said, when we talk about bringing, women into the trades, well, there's some safety issues there as well. Like Dion said, they're they don't have gloves that fit. They don't have fall arrest equipment that fits. Expectations that, well, you're on the job site. I want you to go lift that. And, a woman's not capable of perhaps lifting, 300 pounds of something, and risks injury there. And with, people coming in from outside of Canada, the cultural differences and, safety standards in one country are not necessarily what the safety standards are here. And to do that training and helping them understand that, we run a tight ship. We have phenomenal safety standards in this country. It's not the case in other places. And it's funny because, I'll watch something on even, HGTV, and my husband will comment, I can't believe they're doing that. You'd never be allowed to do that in Canada. That's a huge safety violation. So there's some issues there as well. And safety is a big concern amongst my members. That they want to hire the right people, but you've got to make sure that they understand what the safety rules are, and that we as employers understand that there are cultural differences and that we have to take those into consideration as well.
Yeah. Shannon, you're also nodding, so I'm picking on you now.
Yeah, I think Carolyn did an excellent job of sort of articulating the overall the picture. And I think, maybe in the past there was a little bit more of a one size fits all in terms of safety. But now we have a lot of different groups that have very specific needs, and how we respond to that is creating challenge for us. And I think, when we're in a boom and there's a lot of pressure to get projects, there is a bit of tendency to try to rush things and maybe take shortcuts that aren't helpful on the safety front. So, certainly from the construction associations, that safety is not our wheelhouse. We work very closely with the safety association, but it certainly impacts our members. So, yeah, I would echo what Carolyn has said for sure.
Yeah, thanks. And Dion, I mean, the union spends a tremendous amount of energy on training and preparing people. But I realize this issue hits you just the same because you're starting from a different point. Are there any special things that the union's doing, or unions broadly are doing in this area as well that would complement either what the safety association is doing or in conjunction with that, that helps kind of maybe close some of these gaps?
Absolutely. So again, our organization safety is number one priority, but production is second to safety. And engineering is when we get, again, we're not the employer, we're the ones doing the work. So when we arrive to site, you get handed your blueprints, you get handed this and that, and engineering, it's now engineered into the job is safety for us, right? So your scaffolding and all that stuff, your mechanical advantages, forklifts, the stupid stuff, I was going to say another word that I used to see on the site, that 300-pound lift, I ain't lifting that. It ain't happening. And no one else I know is doing that. You're going to grab a forklift, you're taking the time. And what I see now is supervision has a huge responsibility on the safety end of it, saying, hey, Dion, go lift that 300-pound panel. And I go and do it and blow my back out. Well, it's not me that's going to get in trouble. It's that supervisor. It's like, go get the forklift, slow down. And yeah, maybe it's going to take an extra hour or two. And that's where the pressure comes on. And you need to have those people in supervision that can take that pressure and say, whoa, 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 whoa. go get the forklift, go get the mechanical advantage, go get a helper, go get someone to help you, right? So it's the stuff we seen 25 years ago. Going into it now is that education again that I said. Be smart, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Thanks. And Dion, my next question is, I'm going to come back to you on this right now because, like technology, techniques, these are some of the things that I keep hearing over and over again. We need to be able to incorporate technologies and new technologies into the way that we do business, the way that we construct things, the methods that we put together. And there are changing ways that we're seeing in other parts of the world that you're also seeing here. Could you talk about some of those things in terms of helping to close some of the skill gaps? And maybe even some of the safety gaps, or maybe what new things that might be introducing in terms of safety issues when it comes to technology and maybe ways that we now put buildings and that together.
Absolutely. It's come a long way. Again, I my experience is you started in the industry and it was stick building. A load of a truck would arrive on site and you'd have one piece at a time. Modular builds are becoming a thing, or are a thing, I should say. It's built off site and trucked in here. And then you put it up with the crane, and it does, a different set of challenges comes with that, but you're having less people, less, congestion. If I look at some of the stuff that on the welding industry, automation is a big thing. This is, again, we're not talking manufacturing in my industry, it's construction. But on some of the stuff, if you look at the co-op refinery, it's going on right now here in Regina. And jobs that used to take 40 welders to do are now 15 because of automation. And that makes it safer. You're having more supplied air. Just stuff like that where you're not putting those people at risk. And when I say at risk, there's long-term risks in some of these industries, like breathing. Your welding industry is a terrible, terrible industry for lungs and stuff like that, where it's come a long way with the automation. So that's one thing. And then again, calling the modular builds off-site in a controlled environment. That's huge. It's huge. So then you'll have, and all you're doing, you're not losing labor. You always worry about, oh geez, are we going to lose our jobs to robots? Well, in some industries you will, but then that's going to pick up in other industries like the modular. There was never a modular industry at one time, and now it's a big industry. And so those people that maybe were on site doing stick builds are now in a controlled environment over in the modular yard. You put it on a truck, you drive it in, bigger cranes, so instead of using a 60 ton at one time, now you're seeing giant cranes with these massive lifts. That's a different set of challenges. That's a lot of planning, a lot of engineering. And we love our engineering friends because they're the ones that, are setting the stage for when we come in. You hook it up, put it in, but you're just seeing, I always like to say there used to be a horse and buggy industry, and then the Model T came, right? So you just change it. The world's changed. We're not at a crossroads anymore. We're in a new era, and that's the way it is. And industry will, with the automation, the AI, that stuff that's coming, that are kind of right there too. It's changing, or it's changed.
Okay. Shannon, is that consistent with some of in your world, is, and not just as a consistent, but is it part of the solution to some of the labor pressures that you're sensing?
Yeah, I think, Dion, you're exactly right. We are in a time of change, and I think that that's pretty common, that we're constantly in transition in terms of our labor market has changed. So what we used to hire, your traditional construction worker, that's not the same anymore. How we do construction isn't the same anymore. And if you don't keep up with, changes and technology improvements and the fast pace, you get left behind. And that's, I think the people that are successful and our members that are successful in the construction industry are able to do that. They're able to pivot. They're able to adapt to the changes, learn the new ways. And, certainly as a membership association, and I'm sure Carolyn's the same, we see that sort of as our role as the construction associations to be the bridge to those trainings, those educations, those, we're hooked in with the Canadian Construction Association and all of our other construction associations across Canada, and it's learning best practices and sharing those things, and even the differences from one region to another, right? It's cold here in the winter, and how we do construction is different than how it might be in Victoria. So, really learning that local expertise and what the new advancements and how you adapt that to your local areas. So we see that as our role with our members.
Okay. Well, thank all of you. I'm gonna I'll shift here to kind of where we can collectively do work together. I'm going to say how we collaborate on solving some of the challenges, either currently, or we're not just currently. We're going to have this challenge for the next 5-10 years for sure. I referenced Bill Force, and I think we put the link in the chat. The forecast summary. You'll see that it's a 10-year forecast. And I realize those things aren't always going to be nailed accurate, but it was definitely, you got a pretty good idea that this is going to be a challenge for a long time. Are there areas that, in terms of becoming more efficient and more strategic in the way that we deliver, that we can integrate things like safety into, does this need to be more integrated into our various programs, whether it be post-secondary or with our partners, SIT or Polytech or apprenticeship programs? Are there areas that we can collaborate and that can help maybe close the gap on some of these challenges? And Carolyn, maybe I'll go with you first.
It's an interesting question. It's a hard question to answer because I think safety has to be top of mind for everyone, and having programs at Sask Poly or including apprenticeship. I think, Colin, what it comes down to is we need to have conversations, and we need to look at what the situations are and figure out, what can we do? I don't have a magic answer for that question. I think it comes down to having conversations and looking at statistics and, where are we having issues with safety within the province and the construction industry? What can we do to address those? I think, I wish I had a perfect answer for you, but I don't.
No, I don't expect that any of you are going to give going to have an easy pat answer on it, but your thoughts are really important on this, and the fact that we're having this discussion is where we open it. Shannon?
Yeah, I mean, my personal belief, if you know me at all, is collaboration is where the magic happens, but it's not easy. Collaboration is not easy. It is much easier sometimes to just kind of go about your business and do your own thing and keep your head down. And then there's a lot of external factors, like COVID was a big external thing that created havoc on the collaboration front. And then there's leadership transition. So I'm thinking about the construction association specifically. It's taken a couple of years to kind of get everybody into their positions, and there's all this great work being done at different associations, and we're still trying to get our heads around what's out there and how do we connect our members to those programs, and how do we really maximize all these great things that are happening out there. And it is about collaboration, but collaboration takes a lot of time. It takes effort. It takes building relationships, and none of that happens quickly. So I believe in it strongly, but it's lots of work.
I think if I could jump in for a second, Colin, I think, though, one of the things when we talk about collaboration, and a huge advantage that we have in this province, and I talk about this when I go to our national meetings with other associations, is that we are a smaller construction group. So we can build those relationships, and we have been able to build those relationships that, I'm very comfortable that if I, need to talk to Shannon, I can pick up the phone and I can call her. And I think that's a huge advantage that we have in this province, that we do know each other, and, we do get together and have a coffee, and we do try to collaborate. I agree with Shannon. It is hard. But we certainly attempt, we all attempt to do it. And because we are a smaller group, I think it's a lot easier. And, when I talk about this nationally to my colleagues, there's a lot of envy of, wow, you guys, you guys just had that meeting about that. I'm like, well, yeah, it was an issue. So we got together and we talked about it, and we came up with a solution. So we have a very, very strong advantage there.
Yeah, Dion, your thoughts on this as well?
Both great comments. I always like to use the phrase "honor amongst thieves" in our industry. It's construction is the most competitive industry out there. However, we all have to work together in industry to advance it, to work together and not to fight amongst each other. It's a unique industry in that regard, where we're always bidding on projects against each other, but yet we have to work together. It's very unique that way.
Yeah. I'll make another pivot in terms of your recommendations to companies, and this is kind of, I think there's a couple of comments in the chat that I've noticed as well that would probably touch on this, but each of you would, because of the knowledge you've built up and you've seen efforts, and each one of you talk about your magazines in terms of hiring strategies, and again, people are all competing often over the same person or the same group of people, but there are companies and organizations that have figured out how to set themselves apart from others and become more attractive as an employer. Are there strategies that either you as an organization are utilizing, or you've seen some of your leading member organizations using that that are better than others? Are there recommendations that you could make to companies, individuals, organizations on how to recruit, how to retain? Any lessons that you could speak to? And Dion, I think there was a question that was even pertaining specifically to some of the unions, because there's a lot of work that's been done in there, and I know Women in Trades has been one example that's been connected as well. So, Kevin's union involvement challenge, involved recruitment strategies do they have in place now? Is there anything you can talk about there?
Well, yeah, that's what we do. We recruit. And so the companies, the relationship we have is we have the labor, and the company goes, we don't bid the work. The companies do. So we have the relationship with anything from the gigantic multinational companies right down to our two-person shop, three-person shop. And so they go out and bid the work, and then they rely on us to supply the labor. And we have either apprentices or journey people. That's it. We don't have general labor. So either you are an apprentice working towards a journey person, or you're a journey person trying to advance your career if you want to. If you want to move into supervision, if you want to take on that responsibility. So the relationship with the contractors, and again, we have over 300 plus contractors that we have a relationship in this province. And again, that's where I said the collaboration is they go and bid the work and we supply the labor. And they rely on us to make sure when that call comes in, whether it's for 4 people or for 400. Right now we're in our busy season with shutdowns and outages, and it's very busy. But they rely on us to supply that manpower or that people power. And so we very rarely do not fill calls, is what it's called. So if they're putting calls in for 40, 50, 60, 400, that's our responsibility to supply that labor.
Carolyn or Shannon?
Go ahead.
Oh, Shannon, you're muted. Go ahead, Shannon.
No, I was just going to say, I think that the recruitment side of life is, some of the things we've touched on already is we have to, it's critical that our industry responds in a more flexible manner, right? That the environments we're creating for the people that are landing in our industry, it has to be different than it was in the past. And, that's challenging as employers. They have to learn new skills. They have to learn new ways. How would you respond to a person with a disability on the job site, or a woman versus, a 40-year-old man, or Indigenous, like immigrants, all of the things that we're talking about, the underrepresented population groups that are landing in our industry now. We need to do better at creating those environments. So more flexible types of responses.
And Carolyn?
Yeah, I agree with what Shannon just said, that I think when we're looking at those successful companies that recruit, they're showing a big picture. They're showing that safety is important. They're trying to understand different cultures. They're accepting of diversity in the workplace, and making adjustments so that you can have that diverse workforce. You look at some of the job sites, and job sites can look pretty much the same from job to job. We're not seeing a lot of diversity. We need to embrace that, and I think those successful employers are the ones that are embracing that and really taking a hard look at how can they make their business welcoming to somebody, how can they make the job site welcoming, and making sure that they're addressing issues that people may have.
Great, thanks. Just as a reminder to folks here, and I think we showed a couple of the magazine covers, but each of you have really, I think, really excellent resources that provide kind of in-depth recommendations. And yeah, thank you for bringing that up on the screen for us here. Each of you have got lots of resources in there, recommendations, further sources that people can go to and people to talk to in terms of building your own strategy around that, but also where safety weaves through all of these things, and we're resource to help support the development of workers there as well. We've got a few minutes left, and I wanted to give each of you a few minutes to maybe put any further comments that you have, because I know there's things I didn't ask that I think are also really important to each of you here. And could you take a few minutes and maybe talk about where you think we need to go more broadly? Carolyn, maybe I'll start with you, and I'll move to Dion and Shannon. So I'll give Shannon lots of time to really think about this.
Give her the advantage.
Yeah. This is the one shot you get, Shannon.
Well, I think at the end of the day, I said, for the construction industry, I think what we need to do is work together so that we can show that a career in the construction industry is a good career. That, it's a place where there can be work-life balance. There's a place where you can advance your career, that it really can be for everyone. And I don't think we do a good enough job selling construction as a career. And I think we need to do a better job of that. You still have those people, those parents, I'll pick on parents who look and say, you know what, I don't want my kid going into construction because they're only going to work from, April 1st to October 1st. That's the only time they're going to get to work, because that's going to be that's the construction cycle. So I think we need to do a much better job of selling the trade, selling construction as viable careers, getting into the schools, talking to people, showing the comparison. We used to do it years ago as an association, the comparison of if you went to university compared to if you went into the trades, what the outcomes would be as far, financially for you. So I think we have some work to do with that.
Great, thanks. And yeah, maybe the use of digital strategies to be sure that we're talking to the right age group. I was not a digital strategy person. Didn't come from there, but I've learned lots quick. So appreciate that. Dion, any things that you wanted to be sure that that pressed on the group today?
We covered a lot of material, and again, it's again the leaky bucket. We recruit, we retain. I don't want to say it's an old hat, but industry has changed. It's not changing, and it'll always change. The way we use materials, the way we install stuff, everything. And so that training has to keep up to date with everything. And that's part of as a tradesperson, that's what you're expected to do. You can't, we're not using rivets anymore and hammering them in. You're expected, no different than engineering, right? Things change, and you got to keep up with it. So it's a great industry to be in, by the way, anyone who's looking for it. It's great money. We always, I try it, again, it's you don't want to say, it's all about the money. It's to be outdoors and to do some stuff you love, and you're with the camaraderie, and it's just such a fun place to be, and then you get paid well too, at the end of the day.
Awesome. And Shannon, Take us home.
I would say lots of great comments already. So that's a challenge sometimes with going last. I don't want to say just ditto what they said, but definitely the future is bright in this industry. I think it's a great time to be in this industry and be part of the change and the innovation and the labor market's going to look completely different in the next 5-10 years, and that's exciting. It's exciting to embrace these changes and it's exactly true what's already been said, that the construction industry has a place for everyone, absolutely everyone. And I think the more that we can get that message out on, get that out there on the rooftops, that's really important. And keep working on our culture, and so that when we do get these people into our industry, that they want to stay and that they feel safe and secure in all ways. So, the future's bright.
Awesome, thank you. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a fantastic industry to be involved with. My whole family's been involved in construction one way, shape, or form. It put bread on the table, and they also allow them to have their creative outlet. For so many of them, that you get a chance to do something, and when you step back and look and say, "Look, this is what collectively we built," so really, really important from that end. I enjoy this conversation, but I also enjoy working with each of you in the ways that we get to. We talked about collaboration, and I absolutely appreciate the collaboration that I have with each of you, whether it be trying to develop a particular strategy, or working with government, or informing other folks who are buying construction services on what their advantages are, and having a well-equipped, well-trained, organized businesses that can deliver their product on time and on budget, and not have the delays that happen when people get injured, when there's damage to the equipment, or some special piece of material, or a bay window or something on that gets damaged almost inevitably when somebody also gets injured. So I appreciate the time that you've taken today, and listen, not just listen to me, but to answer my questions and the questions from the audience today. Again, go to those resources available on each of their websites, in addition to what's available on the SCSA online.ca website. Thank you for each of you, and I will pass things back on to our two hosts as they pop on the screen here for us. So thanks, Carolyn. Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dion.
Yes, thank you to all you guys on the panel. That was a great discussion. We appreciate your time. So that brings us to our break. We're going to take a short pause, and we're going to return back at 10:45 with our keynote presentation.
All right, so just as we hit into your break, we're going to hit up that chat again, and I'm going to encourage you this time. What would you choose? Would you fly? Would you be more like Batman, maybe with unlimited funds, where you could create or invent cool gadgets like auto-fitting PPE, kind of like Back to the Future? It just fit right to you. Anyways, if you have any great superpowers, hit us up in the comment box while you are on your break.
All right, grab a coffee, stretch your legs, and we'll see you guys back at 10:45.